this can happen, right? So Bokashi Pinoy, which we fondly call BP, we found ways to adapt the Bokashi method in the Philippines. We take into account our own climate and our lifestyle and eating habits as Filipinos. It's very different. For our food ways is quite different with other countries. And it's also important to recognize that our climate is different in other countries. We don't have a winter, and our summers can be grueling, very hot, and we are often plagued by flooding. So all this has to be taken into consideration so that people who practice the method can continue doing it despite the climate, right? So our efforts divert food waste from landfills. We allow urban areas to revitalize available soil. We also try and create additional income for farmers during the off season. And on a macro perspective, we want to be able to support a circular economy through the use of upcycled materials for all of the Bokashi stages. So for those of you who have received your buckets, most of those buckets are repurposed. Okay, so we take them from suppliers. They used to contain food materials or food raw materials. So otherwise, those just get thrown away. We will repurpose them for bokashi composting. And the bokashi ipa specifically is a differentiator for our company. So for those of you who are familiar with bokashi because you've been reading around and you've been researching about the method, you will be familiar with the term bokashi brand. So a lot of the other companies in our industry will sell bokashi brand. We specifically sell bokashi ipa, which is rice hull that has been inoculated with beneficial microorganisms to serve as the fermenting agent, right? Doing this gives the farmers additional income and makes use of otherwise raw material that could have just been thrown away. Okay, so that's part of our advocacy in supporting a circular economy, right? So let me introduce you to the team. Um, Bokashi Pinoy is made up of Ms. Lanie Francisco, who is the founder and CEO. Again, we are a team of volunteers. So we have Janina, Ninfa, Roy, Tammy, and myself. I'd like to ask the mentors to turn on your videos so that you can say hi to our participants. Hi. Okay, so I wonder if you can see Janina is in white. Mentors, please turn on your audio so that you come up in the speaker view and say just a quick hi. Hi. Yeah, so
Hello.
Janina has a headset. Tammy is in stripes. Miss Ninfa, oh, finally, Miss Ninfa is in a bright gray shirt. And Miss Lani is in a pink, shirt.
I'm
Okay,
using an
so the one
iPad.
that you see, the one in a gray shirt with only her chin exposed is Miss Ninfa. Okay, so Janina is our resident walking encyclopedia. We ask her about everything and she knows it. Um, Miss Ninfa is our all-around master of everything from gardening to bokashi to I think just in general just life. Okay, so Miss Ninfa is master of all things. Tammy is our mother hen. She's always taking care of the participant or challenger perspective and always making sure that all the mentors are getting enough rest. Okay, Miss Lani, of course, is our founder and CEO, and I will give her the floor just so she can tell you a little bit about Bokashi Pinoy and herself. Miss Lani?
Hello,
Audio.
everyone. Is it clear? Actually,
Yes, a little bit of an echo though, Miss
okay,
Lani.
sounds so loud. So anyway, guys, I'd like to thank you for choosing to journey with us. I would always say that Bokashi is actually a journey of um, a lot of different things, but I think one of the things that you'll be able to learn from here is not just turning your garbage to a garden resource, but also maybe respect nature, find out how you can save the environment right at home, and also learn how to be an advocate of changes in behavior, because this type of things actually requires behavioral change, and maybe even respect the cycle of life and death. I think that's one of the agenda that May has for us today, the cycle of life and death. I've always said that composting actually made me realize that, um, you know, living things actually do not die. They become part of the soil, and the soil becomes part of the plants that we eat again and again, which becomes sustenance for us. So we really have to respect that cycle of life and death. And that's something that composting can actually uh, help us to understand. So thank you again for choosing to join with us, and I hope that you will have fun. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Lani. That was a very heavy echo. That was a very heavy echo. So I hope some of you were able to receive her message. So it's really, our advocacy is really more about protecting the environment from what we can do on a daily basis and aligning ourselves with nature and its processes, right? Okay, so let me move on after we've discussed. So now that you know who we are, for the benefit of those of you who are joining us with basically zero knowledge, I'd like to go ahead and discuss what is Bokashi. Okay, because a lot of us in this call are encountering it for the first time through friends, and also it's a bit trending nowadays. So some people would have joined us just because they're interested and would like to know more. So for the benefit of those, let's start with what is Bokashi. So Bokashi means fermented organic matter in Japanese. Okay, it started in Japan in response to the need for a method that was best fit for small spaces. So me personally, I've never tried any other composting method. There are different kinds. So you can have vermiculture that has worms. You can do black soldier flies that uses black soldier flies, obviously. And also traditional composting. I've never tried any of those, but when I was doing my research, I figured Bokashi is the best one that fits my lifestyle because there are no worms, there are no flies, and it fits a small space. I don't need a large garden. I don't need necessarily to dig, right? So for traditional composting has been around for a long time, and it does work. A lot of people define it as the decomposition of organic matter, but there is a bit of an imbalance with the rate of decomposition. They never really know when the compost is ready to be harvested because the food will decompose at different rates, right? So for traditional composting, it's usually associated with foul or rotten odors. It's attracted to pests and scavengers, and there is random bacterial growth, so it may breed some pathogens, right? But bokashi composting, as opposed to traditional, is the chemical breakdown via controlled acidification with beneficial microorganisms. So this kind of definition, just a shout out to Janina. This is a definition straight from Janina. It's very specific. The chemical breakdown. So we use the fermenting agent in the bokashi, the microorganisms, to help ferment the food before it decomposes. So bokashi composting is associated with a strong sour smell, if any. It also repels pests like cockroaches, rodents, and scavengers, and supports fungi or white mold growth. But best of all, it is applicable to small spaces, but also scalable. It can be done in a farm or agricultural setting. So what you see in the photo is an example of a bokashi, a food waste that has undergone bokashi fermentation, and it has grown white mold. This is okay. Okay, as long as it's not a different color, we welcome white molds. It means the fermentation has been successful, right? So without going into too much detail, basically the Bokashi method is a good response to all of the things that people don't like about traditional composting. So if you feel like uh, you want to be able to compost, but are hindered by the limitations of traditional composting, Bokashi might be a good fit. That's basically what we're saying, right? But even if, let's say, even if you already know what Bokashi is, why would you do it? Why even compost in the first place? And our answer to that is the circle of life. Okay, so why do we Bokashi? Everybody knows that nature on its own employs a circular economy by default. Everybody knows people, things live and they die and they decompose and then somehow gives life to the rest of the ecology. So aligning ourselves with nature's processes is sustainable. This table shows you a linear economy and a reuse economy, and on the far right side, what we call a circular economy. So humans tend to, well, in the beginning, we tend to go for more a linear economy where raw materials are created for our use, and then it creates waste that sometimes can be non-recyclable and go into our landfills. It was a good move to go into reuse economy where some of the materials can be used again. However, if you notice here in the middle, we are still farming raw materials and still creating non-recyclable waste. A true circular economy, okay, brings in biodegradable or reusable raw materials to be used for production so that we can use them. And then eventually, when we recycle them, they can be put back straight into production. That means changing our mindset at the source so that the raw materials that we use, how can they continue to be of value even after they've finished their lifespan, okay? So this is what Emily was talking about. How can I go more zero waste, more sustainable? So this is the transition we are trying to undergo. It's good to be part of a reuse economy, but the next step is actually going towards the circular economy, right? So what do we see about the Bokashi stages? We will be learning this in more detail in the next 30 days. So I will be giving you a quick rundown of the stages for now, right? Before I go forward, I've already given you quite a bit of material. I just want to check whether you guys have any questions before I move on. If you have any questions, please turn on your video and you can raise your hand so that I can acknowledge, or you can also send a message via the chat room. Tammy will be in charge of the chat room. She will answer your questions via the chat. All right. Okay, so I'm not seeing anybody turning on their videos. I assume everything is clear at the moment. I'll move on. So the Bokashi stages, there are 5 stages to Bokashi. We'll be teaching you all of these stages and guiding you through them in the next 30 days. So stage 1 is where we segregate the food waste and add Bokashi ipa. So you'll be preparing your materials, you'll be collecting your food waste, putting them in tubs, and then processing with the Bokashi ipa. This is a critical, important step. You'll be learning this skill in the first week of the 30 days. So the first 8 days will be focused on your ability to allot the Bokashi ipa properly and then also troubleshoot any problems that arise. It's important that you're able to figure out exactly how much Bokashi ipa to put depending on the kind of food waste that your household generates, right? So this will be different for everybody. That's why it's important for us to see your pictures. It would be very helpful for you to share them whenever you, not whenever you collect, but if there are any questions, please take a picture and then send to us so we can give you proper feedback. So these photos are from some of our participants. They show us their food waste, how much fat that they put. They also give us a photo of their Bokashi station nearby the sink so that they can process immediately after every meal. It's important that you process immediately so that the decomposition of the food waste is stopped, right? If you are familiar with fermentation, fermentation is actually a preserving process. So for those of us who like burong mangga or achara, diba? These are things that ferment and then we eat after. So pickled anything undergoes fermentation. Beer undergoes fermentation, right? So it's actually a preserving factor. We try to give the food immediately, the fermenting agent, so that it stops the decomposition, so that the smell is managed, right? So that's stage one. That's why it's critical, because each household will be different, each food waste will be different, and you'll need to be guided for how much fermenting agent or what kind of fermenting agent to put, just so you also are practical about this step. You don't just want to keep adding more things because it will cost you in the long run. We want to be able to teach you how to be practical about bokashi so that you can keep doing it in the long term. Okay, that is stage one. Stage two is when we will seal your buckets. That means it's full and it needs to undergo anaerobic fermentation for 2 weeks. Okay, this is also an important step because we need to give the microorganisms time to do their work, time to break the food scraps down. Okay, it will be sealed for 2 weeks. So for those of you who only have one set, please bear in mind that you may continue with us, no problem, but you'll need to stop collecting while your bokashi bucket is sealed, just because you won't have any place to put it, to put the food scraps, right? So just keep that in mind. There's a lot of participants who kind of are on the fence and want to just try it out, see whether it works for them. That's okay. You can keep to the one set of buckets. You have a lot of time well, you have a week, not really a lot of time, but you do have a week to think about whether you want another set so that your food waste processing or bokashi is continuous, right? So that's stage two. Basically, you're not going to be doing anything. You are leaving the microorganisms to do what they need to do, right? So stage three is the stage where we return the pre-compost whether you want another set. So we've developed several ways to do this. You can do it in a trench, or you can create a raised bed to receive it, or you can also just get a plastic box so that you can recreate nature inside that box. Okay, so stage three is when we will transition your fermented food waste and put it into return it to the earth. Okay, so the steps for how to do this and what kind will fit you will be part of the second week of the challenge, right? Stage four is quite exciting. This is where we will harvest. So we'll also teach you when the compost is ready to be harvested. In these photos on the top left, upper left corner, the picture on the left is regular soil with fresh rice hulls, and the picture on the right is harvested compost. So the color is very different. It will have a very rich, earthy smell. The texture will be fluffy. So there are signs for when you can harvest the compost. that's stage 4. The picture on the right side is a picture from a recent participant. So you'll notice the soil in her backyard is pretty barren. Okay, she can't plant anything on it. It's quite gray, right? On the upper part of the photo where it's very black, that is where her trench, her first trench was. And this is it, almost ready to be harvested. She said she was going to harvest it in the coming 3 days. Okay, and she's already dug a new trench to receive her second bucket. Okay, so you will see a very big difference, a marked difference on the quality of your soil as you enrich it. This is the goal. It's to enrich available soil so that it can support the growth of plants, right? Stage 5 is when we plant and then reap the benefits of all the work that we've done with our food waste. So this photo is from one of our early participants who created her vegetable garden just outside the back of her house. It's quite lush. I don't think even she expected how successful it could be. She won an award, an urban gardening award, just because of how lush her garden was. So this is located in Quezon City. So this can be you. This can be your garden. And this is only one of our participants. We've had a lot of success stories as well. Okay. So actually, just to backtrack, right? I was originally discussing why Lanie Bokashi, but in our discussion of the stages, it actually answers how do we Bokashi. What are the steps that we're doing that follow the method, right? So how do we Bokashi? We follow the stages, and eventually we turn our food waste from garbage to garden. Okay, so that's a big chunk. Okay, does anybody have any questions at this point before I move on? There are some people talking in the chat. I just want to make sure. Okay, so Tammy is in charge of the chat. I just get rattled a bit sometimes. So there will be, don't worry, Tammy is responding to your questions. And the rest of you, if you'd like to know what's going on, go ahead to read the chat box in case it's also relevant to you. Okay? I'll move on. Okay, so right now we are halfway through our agenda and we'd like to discuss the when. So we have entered a 30-day Bokashi challenge, garbage to garden challenge. So we'd like to know what's happening in the 30 days, right? So there are specific dates. We call them milestone dates, right? So these are important dates where we want you to be able to do certain things, okay? Just so we are journeying together. Okay, our goal is to have you succeed, have a successful Bokashi on your first try. Okay, so we will guide you and encourage you to achieve these milestones on these dates. We're not gonna force you into anything, but we will give you tips and tricks. Okay, just so we all journey together, right? So for this particular batch 18. 29th of August will be stage 1. That's when you will learn the skill of collection, segregation, and processing. Stage 2 will begin on September 5. That's when we will seal our buckets. So for those of you who only have one set, September 5 is a good deadline to give yourselves to make a decision for whether or not you want to buy another one or keep the one that you have and just continue, right? So that's okay. Stage 3 for this batch will be September 19. That's when we will transition to stage 3 and return the pre-compost into the earth. And then 27 September, that will be our official end of the 30 days. That's 30 days from when we started, 29th of August. So we will have a quick meeting to close the loop. You'll notice that stage 4 and 5 is TBD, it's to be determined. Harvesting compost and planting on your compost will really depend on the kind of materials, the contents of your bucket, and also the method that you chose for stage 3. So there's no date for that, but it's okay because we will continue to be your guide. Okay, so all of the batches that we've opened and closed are still with us and update us from time to time, because sometimes they will have some issues or they also want to share what happened on their 11th or their 20th bucket. So stage 4 and 5 will be on your own time at your own pace. We would like to be still there with you, and we consider it a privilege to continue the journey with you. So we will just be around for any questions that you may have, right? So these are important dates. For the participants of the challenge, I will send you a copy of this as reference of the schedule overview itself. Okay, so don't worry, you don't need to write things down. And also, we will be reminding you of these dates throughout the 30 days every week. Okay. Locations. Where shall we Bokashi? Okay. Please, because today is, we consider today day 0 and tomorrow is day 1. Please designate a Bokashi area. Okay? It would be a cool, dry location away from sunlight, rain, and water. So these photos are from our mentors and our participants. It can be outside of the house, as long as it's shaded and away from rain. Um, you can interior design it like Miss Ninfa, who is the owner of the middle photo. So she has a stand for it. She also has her materials nearby and on hand. So she has extra paper and her Bokashi on this little shelf. She even has a clipboard because she does a lot of experiments and needs to write things down so that she can remember. Right? But your Bokashi area can be a very nice looking area like Miss Ninfa's here in the middle photo. For some of you, as you are learning, it might be very useful to put it under the sink because then it's easy to collect all your food waste and put them all together in the same location. And then it's also very easy for you to wash up. Okay, so it really depends on your area. The picture on the left side, this is Miss Lanie's setup. So she happens to have an extra room outside. You'll notice there's still some sunlight coming through, but oops, sorry. There's still some sunlight that's coming through, but it's not direct sunlight. Sorry, I have to stop here because I need to turn on the light because suddenly I am in darkness. Hang on, huh? Hang on. Okay, I suppose the sun has already set outside. All right. Okay, let me reshare my screen. Share. Okay. Please, can everybody let me know? People, Emily, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Has it been shared? Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so the picture here on the right side is actually Tammy's setup. So hers is also outside the house, but she protects it with a cover or a tarp, just in case it rains, or also to discourage whatever pests might be lurking. She has, you'll notice she has 4 buckets on rotation or in use for her household. So this is really very dependent on your consumption, your family's consumption. It depends on how much food waste you generate. So you'll have a better feel of this as you continue the challenge, whether or not you need more buckets, more tubs, whatever. Okay, you'll have time to think about it, right? Okay, so after you designated your Bokashi area, it's also important to please prepare collection tubs that are plastic, opaque, food grade, and with lids. You recommend ice cream or biscuit containers that are plastic, that are at least half-gallon sized or bigger. Okay, again, depending on your food waste. So if you have a lot of fruits with peels, so we have participants who on a regular basis consume jackfruit or langka, or dragon fruit. So the peels can be quite big. So the bigger containers are better, or you can just have more of them, right? Because uh, you'll keep these tubs for 3 days before you transfer to the bucket. And this is a critical step. Okay, a lot of people will ask, why do we have to collect in tubs? Okay, this is a differentiator for our method. If you'd like to compare it with the other companies in this industry, we are the only ones who will ask you to isolate your collections and wait 3 days to transfer. The reason is because as you are learning what happens to your food waste, it's important that you're able to isolate any contaminated batches before you transfer them, right? So as you acquire the skill, okay, of troubleshooting or learning how much to put in or what kind of fermenting agent to put, depending on the kind of food waste that you have, okay, it's important that they're all isolated so that if something is contaminated, you can discard it and you don't have to include it in the batch, in the bucket, because when that happens, you might have to throw away. Once it contaminates the whole bucket, you might have to throw it away. So we're trying to avoid that. Okay. In Bokashi, it's important to realize there are no such thing as failed buckets. Okay. You hardly ever fail because the food will decompose. The smell will be different, but it will eventually decompose. So there are ways, okay, to continue the process, but differently. You will not fail in Bokashi. However, our method helps you succeed on the first try. Okay, so if you can give us 30 days to follow our instructions, then we can achieve that major milestone of succeeding on your first try, right? So prepare these collection tubs as well as paper waste. Okay, paper waste and cardboards exclude any glossy or thermal material. So glossy material is your magazines. Thermal material is your receipts from credit cards. So those will not decompose in ways that are good to the environment. So we separate them and use them differently. Okay, remove tapes and staples as well. Those will not decompose. Um, so okay, so basically designate your Bokashi area, prepare your tubs, and collect paper waste. Paper waste you will use throughout the 30 days. So you'll use them in your pockets, you'll use them in your tubs, and you'll also use them in stage 3, right? If you happen to have a garden, or actually even if you don't have a garden, if you'd like to collect yard waste, it's also a good time to start because you'll need the yard waste to be dry in order to use them well for your stage 3. Okay, so you'll have 3 weeks to collect dried yard waste. So if you happen to have a garden, that's easy. Anything that falls to the floor is can be used for stage 3. But for those of us who live in condos or apartments that don't have access to yard waste, then that means sometimes we have to ask our friends who have gardens, hey, can I have some of the stuff that you throw away anyway? So you have about 3 weeks to think about that, what kind of materials you'd like to use for stage 3, right? Any questions so far that you'd like to ask verbally as opposed to us saying it in the chat? I trust Tammy completely, and I see that she has answered all of your questions. All right, so I can move on. This is great. Yes, I heard somebody. Would somebody like to ask a question?
Hi, May. This is
Yes.
Miriam.
Oh, hi, Miriam. Hi.
Hi, this is Miriam Kiambao. Sorry, because I'm getting ready for another event starting in 15 minutes. So, anyway, I
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I understand the rush. Go ahead.
I started collecting my food scraps because we are doing juicing. So that's where majority of my fresh, raw food and vegetables are coming from. So I started my collecting my food waste starting August 13. And
Oh,
then
it's been
I
a
was
while.
too late because it was only on the sixth day when I transferred them into my Bokashi tub. And then
Okay.
since then, I've asked my maid to collect. And when we had all the ice cream tubs filled, I asked her to put it back. So I already trained her about the layering.
Okay.
But
Okay.
but since I transferred them all in the Bokashi tub, I haven't harvested any juice.
Ah.
Do you think?
That's okay. It's because depending on the kind of juicer you have, like if you have a Huron, for example, the pulp is actually very dry and there's no more there's no more moisture to get because the juicer itself is very efficient in giving you all the nutritious juice. So if your bucket is full of just these fruit waste, it might take a while. Also, it happens that if you put in too much paper, that you reach a very good equilibrium in your bucket. So that means that the paper is able to absorb the exactly the amount of moisture that the food waste is generating. Okay, so that's why there's no you're unable to harvest any leachate. Also,
No,
a lot of the leachate will drain on stage 2, so it has to be sealed for it to
no,
drain.
May, I haven't even tried opening the faucet.
I
So,
haven't tried. Okay.
oh, do,
um,
you, do you think it's still okay to use?
um, okay, it's a bit hard for me to say. The best way to figure out is to be brave and open. Open the lid, open the lid and check for the smell. Okay, if it's a strong sour smell, you should be okay.
Okay. I'll
Okay.
check.
Yeah, the best way is to be brave.
Okay.
Okay. And then let us know. I'm not sure whether you'll be added to batch 18 because you might be under Miss Dinfa. But please let us know and share so that we can learn from each other. But we'll be excited to find out.
Ninfa.
Yeah.
I'm in touch with Miss Ninfa. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so then that's great. Miss Ninfa, as long as you're with Ninfa, then I believe you are in one of the best hands possible. Okay? Okay. Thank you, Miriam. Okay, we shall move on. Um, okay, to expectation setting. We're almost done. And I think we are within the hour. Yay. Okay, so expectation setting. What should you expect out of the mentors, out of the program, and what can we expect from you as challengers? Right, mentors tasks. We will provide guidance via daily instructions and reading material. We will answer your questions and provide relevant feedback. Okay, how is this going to work? I will be mentoring batch 18. So everyone who is part of the group chat will receive instructions at 7 a.m. So there will be it will be provided to you via the group chat in Messenger at 7 a.m. so that you have time to digest it, understand it, perhaps apply it. And then every 5 p.m., okay, every 5 to 6 p.m., I will be online to answer questions. So you can post your questions anytime throughout the day, and I will answer them also. So if it's urgent, I will also answer within the day, but the allotment, the assigned time that has been given to me is 5 to 6 p.m. All right. So you are sure that whatever question you gave during the day will have an answer by 5 to 6, right? Um, I do have the option to answer earlier if I find that your question is urgent and needs to be addressed immediately. All right. But in order for us to do this efficiently, we will need you challengers to follow our guidance, okay, via the daily instructions. Please read through the material on a daily basis. It will be there again every 7 a.m. Answer our polls. So sometimes we'll ask for your opinion on something, so you can, so that we can make a decision about either the schedule of a learning session or a Zoom meeting. So please answer those so that we can take your schedules into consideration. Also, please join the learning sessions via Zoom. We plan on at least about 2 learning sessions and then a Zoom meeting. Sometimes, depending on how engaged the group is, we might add 1 or 2. Okay, but you'll always have time you'll always have time to consider the schedule, and also we'll give you a couple of different options in terms of timing. Okay, please share your experiences. Let us know what's happening, or send photos so that we can give you relevant feedback. So sometimes you might be adding too little or too much of the Bokashi impact. We won't know that unless you give us a photo. Okay. So especially during the first week, we would appreciate it if you share what's been happening or how you've been applying the lessons that we share with you. Okay? And then closing the loop. Okay? We're towards the end already. So in the beginning of this presentation, our agenda was to let you know who, what, why, where, and when. Okay? We will tackle Bokashi in the next 30 days. But then after the 30 days, we will close the loop. And at that point, we will answer these questions again. Okay? But the answers will change. Right? So, who will be in charge of Bokashi? It will be you. Okay? Part of our advocacy is creating in individuals the sense of accountability for your own waste. Okay, so you will be thinking Bokashi first, and making sure that you are responsible for the waste that you generate. Okay, it may not be food waste; it could be other things like your pet poo or any plastic waste that's been generated from your shopping. But it will be you thinking, how can I apply the Bokashi principles in order to lessen my waste and continue to be sustainable, right? Precisely that. What are you going to continue? You are continuing the advocacy, okay? Maybe you're not with us on a daily basis, but we'll hope that you carry it with you, okay? All the things that we will teach you, not just about Bokashi, but in shifting your mindset, because it is in the shift of the mindset that change will come, okay? What is this change? We like to call it being Bokashified. Okay, so it's really becoming mindful of what you do when you do it, so that you take into consideration what surrounds you. Okay, it's not just about you. What you consume affects the rest of the environment. How do you choose to consume? Right? Where will you apply these principles? Hopefully in your community. And when will you do it? Hopefully soon. Okay? We are a small group, but we welcome you into our tribe. Sorry, I told Miss Lanie I didn't want my voice to break. The advocacy is very close to my heart. And we hope that at the end of the 30 days, you join us, so that you feel empowered to do the same. Okay? We like to think that we do it for ourselves, but in a macro perspective, we're doing this for all the generations to come. It's just that we can do it now. Okay? So, That's the end of the presentation. And I really hope that you gained the information you expected to gain from us today. I will stop sharing my screen. And we have 7 minutes, okay, just to complete the hour. I would like to ask anybody if anybody is willing to share or perhaps um, give an experience or tell us about how this presentation has affected you. Has it been positive, or is there perhaps any questions that you'd like to pose before we end the presentation? Is there anyone who would like to raise your hand? If you'd like to be acknowledged, please turn on your video screen and turn on your microphone so that I can see you and I can acknowledge. Okay. Maribeth, thank
Yes.
you.
I have a small question.
Of course.
Okay. So this is like my second day of collecting scraps, right? So they're already in tubs, and I'm already 2 1-gallon tubs already almost full. And
Yes.
then so I understand that on the third day I have to transfer that to the bucket, right?
Yes.
Okay. So is that the bucket? Is that considered one batch, or do I still just continue collecting and then on the third day transfer the bucket? Is that how it works, or
Um, okay. For the purposes of the challenge, we recommend that you wait until it reaches either 3 days, so you've been collecting for 3 days, or you've collected 5 liters of waste. So that's 5 tubs.
Okay.
Okay. So the reason for that is because you want to be able to look at it and check whether do they look healthy, do they smell bad, or is there mold that's growing, should I discard? Okay. So all of these things will have happened already on the
Okay.
third day. Okay. If there was mold that was gonna grow, you'll see it on the third day. So if you feel like you've reached 5 liters already, because you started collecting has also started collecting, like Miriam, who started collecting on August 13th, you can take a look, quick look, and then let us know so that we can give you feedback, send photos because you're a bit advanced, so that we can give you some feedback for whether or not it's okay to transfer that. You're a bit advanced, Maribeth. So if you're part of batch 18, I will look at your pictures privately just so the rest of the batch isn't confused.
Okay.
So I'll send you a private message to take a look, right?
Right. Thank you.
Okay, so it's basically we want to be able to stop the contamination before the transfer. So I'll need you to take a look at what you already have. That's the short answer to your question. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the rest of the participants? There are 19 still. I'm so glad that there haven't been any drop-offs. So far, let me check the chat. The chat has been busy. So for the rest of you who don't have any questions, you can take a look at the chat. There might be some information there that could become relevant to you, or might answer a question that you have in your head that you haven't been able to ask. Okay, so because no one has yet opened their video, oh, Miriam's still with us. Is it okay, guys, for me to request for a batch photo? Is it okay that we take a photo if you can turn on all of your videos, just so we can take a quick photo to remember this kickoff?
Sorry, I'm putting on makeup.
That's okay. It's okay, Miriam. Okay. Let's wait for everybody to have all of their videos turned on. All right. Okay, just three more. I have a shout out to Ambek, who is part of batch 18, who joined the 1 p.m. meeting and again joined the 5 p.m. meeting. Hello, Ambek. Okay, so is everybody on hand? Okay, so what a lovely, okay, we're gonna do a quick count to three, everybody. Okay, then just get ready. Para naman naka-ready din si Miriam. Okay, let's wait for when Miriam is ready. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, that's it. Okay, Tammy, were you able to get that as well? All right, thank you everybody for joining. I'll ask again if anyone has any questions before I formally end the session. So just to make sure that you all have been, all of your concerns are met. Okay? Does anybody
Hello.
have any questions? Yes. Who is this?
Hello.
Yes, Joanna. Johanna.
This is Joe. I was just wondering if the group chat has been set up yet, or
Yes.
yeah, I'm not sure because I haven't received a notification yet.
All right. The group chat has been set up, yes, for batch 18. The addition will double check, okay? Because I'm not sure whether you'll be added to batch 18 or the next. Yes. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll go through the list again. You should be added within the day. Okay, you should be added within the day. If there's no additions yet, if you don't have a notification by 7 p.m., please check your message requests. So there's a section on Facebook Messenger that is message requests from people that you don't know. So usually the notification is on there, okay, because you are on a private account. So double check that, and you should receive, if you haven't yet, or if you're not included yet in the group, you should have an invitation by 7 p.m. That would be the deadline. All right, thank you, Johanna, sorry. Any other questions before we end? I'm so happy that we are still within the hour. So for our future sessions, it will be like this. We will try to be prompt, on time, okay, and not take up too much of your time. So now that it's officially 6 o'clock, thank you everybody for joining us. We are so happy to have you join us for the next 30 days. And hopefully all the time after that. Okay, so I'll see you guys again online for tomorrow's daily instruction. Bye.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.